guys, and welcome back to another episode of your Brains Coach podcast. My name is Shurina. I'm your host. I'm your Brains Coach, just someone with a lot of passion, curiosity, and thirst for knowledge about all the brain tools you can use to feel, look, and do your absolute best. Guys, today you're gonna learn some very essential tools for emotional regulation. And if you ask me, emotional regulation is everything. It's the quality of your decisions. Because when we are under emotional or in emotional states, everything that is around us, everything that is inside of us, it's tinted. It has like a color to it. It's like looking at the world through tinted glasses, maybe through orange glasses, through blue glasses, or red glasses, or yellow glasses. Have you ever tried that, by the way? The world looks completely different. Like if you wear some red glasses, the world will look like it's sunset, and you feel a special vibe that you usually get around the sunset, especially by the seaside. But the same happens with your emotions. When you're in an emotional state, any situation, any person, any piece of data, anything that is happening around you, that you read, that you watch, that you listen to, that you hear, everything gonna have a special effect or special tint to it. And for example, some people say that there is this phrase that optimists look at the world through rose glasses, through rose tinted glasses. And that's because when you put on, by the way, if you haven't tried it before, try it, glasses with rose spectacles, everything looks a little bit shinier and a little bit merrier and just more, you just feel more optimistic when you look at the world with those glasses. And actually, in some parts of the world, in some institutions, it's a part of therapy, just putting on those glasses for a while to help the person to adjust their worldview quite literally. But the emotions do the same. Their emotions are such an integral, such an essential part of who we are. Most of the time we do experience some sort of emotion, and those emotions that they drive our thoughts and opinions we start taking on, and beliefs, and the kind of data that seems to be right or seems to be wrong, the kind of people we like or we don't like. Emotional states are very powerful. And of course, our decisions going to be affected by the emotional state that we are in. And that's why, for example, among people whose decisions are very, very important, and a lot of people depend on them, they know, at least those ones who work on themselves, they know that when you're in an emotional state, you can't rely on your decisions. That's why a lot of actually people at the leadership positions, they start to kind of numb their emotions, because they know that in an emotional state, your decisions are not your best logical decisions. And sometimes you need to make those logical decisions. And so they kind of start turning off their emotion. But that comes with complications. You can't just turn off your emotions and be less emotional in one setting and be completely emotional in the other setting. So it comes with complication. Then you start feeling less of life in general. But the idea that I'm trying to bring to you and want you to understand is that any decision that you make, it is affected by your emotional state. And so never make any decisions, any especially important decisions, when you are super happy and optimistic and everything seems to be great and amazing. Now that might feel good, but to make decisions that affect your life in major ways, not the best state. There is actually a condition, it's called hypermania, when people's dopamine levels are just through the roof and everything seems like a grand and amazing ideas. You live in a city and you're like, oh, I should go to, Tokyo and live in a 5-star hotel. And people would literally go and spend all of their money and everything that they had on this crazy idea for no specific reason that except for this feeling of everything to be grand and amazing, and every idea that comes in their mind, it's like, this is the best idea ever, right? So there is actually a condition like that. So not the best time to make decisions when you are in a really positive state or in a really negative state. If you are in a really negative state and everything seems to be dark and gloomy and you've been going through hard times, so this is also not the right mindset to make decisions, because you're going to make decisions that might also negatively affect your life and not get after opportunities that could positively change your life, not get maybe after this person who you always wanted to ask out, but because you're always in this blue mood, you're like, oh, well, that's probably not going to work out, shouldn't bother. And you approach your life with that lens and you don't bother about anything, and then you're just stuck in your life. So that's also not a great idea. Or when you're in a bad state, you might think, oh, I need to eat this ice cream because it will make me feel good. And it seems like a great idea because you feel so down. But then if you don't address the underlying reason for you feeling this emotion, and it's persistent, and every day you end up eating a ton of ice cream, and then you start having health complications, and you don't reach your goals, and you don't go for your goals, even just keep eating ice cream, that also, not a great pattern. And so as you can see, emotions will affect your decisions in your life in so many different ways. And then also if you have a goal, but let's say you want to build a business, I'm building a business right now, and a lot of things are not working out, and you have to continue, and you have to continue, and you have to learn, you have to improve, and you got to have this a little bit more optimistic state, because if you just experience a few failures and you decide to give up, well, guess what? No great entrepreneur achieved their greatness by giving up when things didn't work on the first try. They pivoted, but they still kept going. And if you're trying to improve your health, there are going to be a lot of challenges when you're trying to change your habits. And again, if you are in a negative state of mind and challenges really put you down, guess what? You're going to quit and you're not going to reach that goal, and you're going to be stuck in your life. So emotional regulation, it's a skill that if you want to achieve anything meaningful in life, you got to learn the skill. You got to practice, you got to master, and it doesn't come to you just because you know that certain things work. You got to practice those things that help you to regulate your emotions better. And very important note, you have to practice those skills, especially when you don't feel like it. And that's where true power of skills of emotional regulation come into your life and create profound change that you were not able to achieve before. For a lot of people, not being able to achieve certain goals comes for a lot of people, like for more than 90% of the people. Even sometimes people don't realize that, but for a lot of people, inability to achieve goals and to stick with a difficult plan of action comes from inability to regulate emotions and not making decisions under emotional state, a decision that long-term is not the best decision. So how do you manage your emotions better? How do you regulate your emotions better? How do you bring yourself from a state of hyper arousal and feeling super optimistic, right? Sometimes we do feel that way. Lower to make better decision and to become more realistic? Or how do you bring yourself, that is more common for a lot of people, up from feeling down after setback or after a failure, to keep going, keep dreaming, keep aiming high, and keep putting in the work? So how do you regulate your emotions? There are three main tools that have a lot of research, a lot of data that work for everyone. You just got to practice them. And, there are variations exactly how you're going to practice each tool. There are different varieties of these tools, but they work. There is no lack of research. It's not questionable. They work. They're recommended everywhere as stress management, as emotional regulation tools. And I can tell you from my story, the reason, for example, why I don't have any eating problems, even though I did have almost, on the border of eating disorder when I was a teen, my early 20s. In my family, my sister had this. And the reason why I don't have this anymore, and for me, it feels very unnatural to even overeat or to engage in any sort of self-destructing behavior. The reason is because I learned how to regulate my emotions. And once you learn how to manage stress and regulate your emotions, you don't need food to calm you down or bring you up. And once you don't need food for that and you are emotionally stable, guess what, guys? You only eat when you are hungry. And you can't really overeat, because why would you if you know that long-term overeating or overindulging in certain foods on consistent basis gonna impact your life negatively, right? It doesn't make any sense. And when you regulate your, emotions and your stress, your prefrontal cortex, the most thinking, rational part, really kicks into gear and will not leave you alone with the thought that, well, this is stupid, it's not working. But when your emotions are not regulated, emotional centers are more powerful than your prefrontal cortex. When you don't regulate your emotions and stress, they overcome your prefrontal cortex and you start making more stupid decisions that long-term really screw your life up. So emotional regulation, another reason why, where I got the benefits from emotional regulation is building my business. I'm going through a tough transition and all too late having to learn traffic generations and online marketing and all of that stuff, without which my knowledge will spread to very few people. And just growth-wise, I feel very stuck because I didn't learn those skills. And what allowed me to get down to the ground zero and start building and start learning new things and trying and failing and trying better and learning better and improving, what allows me to keep going is, again, my skill of regulate my emotions. That allows my prefrontal cortex to kick in and logically explain to me that, Angela, this is how people start. This is how entrepreneurship is. People try, people fail, people try and learn, and after a while, they succeed. But you gotta show up every day, put in the work, learn from it, and fail from it until you succeed. And your prefrontal cortex knows this, especially if you read biographies of entrepreneurs and you listen to podcasts about their journey, watch their social media. They share this, that they've gone through a lot of struggle. And your emotions might tell you, well, but they're special or something like that. That is total bullshit. And your prefrontal cortex, when not, again, overtaken by emotions, knows that it knows that everyone has the potential when they put the work on consistently, learning, adapting, to succeed in a big way. So anyhow, that's just my story. Let's get to the tools that I practice regularly. There are 3 tools, and I practice them because they have the most data and because people in optimal performance and in peak performance, in high performance, people who are experts in stress management and emotional regulation, they recommend these tools. These tools have, again, a lot of research, and that's why I do them, not because I necessarily love each of them, and you'll understand why. So let's get to the tools. Tool number 1, meditation. And these tools are not in any specific order of importance, even though I believe that tool number 2 that you're going to learn about in a couple of minutes, from the data that we have, it seems that it has the most profound effect faster. So, but to number one, meditation. And why meditation works. Meditation works, and again, a lot of research being done on the brains of meditators, from some Buddhist monks to just regular people who meditate. And what happens is emotional centers of the brain get to be less active, and your prefrontal cortex, the thinking and logical part, actually gets thicker. Meditation literally changes the physical structure of your brain. It rewires your brain. And when you practice meditation regularly, you become less emotionally charged. And by that, I mean you have your emotions, but they're not on extremes, and there is always a strong prefrontal cortex vibe. You always have the logic, and you don't make stupid shit that you regret after. Your brain works in a more holistic manner instead of being driven by fear or stress or other stressful emotions, and making, again, decisions that long-term don't make sense in your life if you want to move in a certain direction. So meditation does that. It literally changes physical structure of your brain, making emotional centers less powerful and making your prefrontal cortex stronger. And there is Wendy Suzuki. She is a professor and I believe lecturer in New York, in the University of New York. And she has this book about how to make the brain happy and just how to optimize your brain. And her lab, they did research on what kind of meditation will produce the desired changes in our brain that will help with emotional regulation. And what they came up with is 13-minute mindful meditation. And mindful meditation just means you focus your attention on your breathing, or on some sensation in your body, or some sensation outside of your body, like some sound, or maybe you are looking at something during meditation. But especially like easy, and for most people, it's easier to just close their eyes and focus on their breathing or sensations in their body. So 13 minutes a day. And it seems that it doesn't have to be one the whole chunk of 13 minutes. It can be spread throughout the day, but 13 minutes a day in a 8-week produced profound changes in the brain and how it works. Of course, changes will start happen sooner and earlier. Even after one day of meditation, you'll feel different. You'll operate differently in the world. Meditation, one of the most powerful tools. We get more and more research about different kinds of meditation, but I would stick with 30-minute rule. And you can use guided meditation. You can use apps like Waking Up app or Headspace or Calm, or there are so many different ones. So meditation. I've been practicing meditation for many years now, at least once a day, usually twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day. If I'm really busy and I have to get a lot of things done cognitively, or if I'm feeling unbalanced emotionally, I meditate more. And that makes sense, right? It's like with brushing your teeth. The more you use your mouth, the more you eat, the more you need to brush your teeth to make your teeth clean and prevent bacteria accumulation, etc. Or if you sweat a lot, then you need to take a shower more often. The same as meditation. If you do a lot cognitively and you need to make a lot of good decisions, and for some reason on some particular day you're going through a lot emotionally, that's where you need your meditation the most, to get clarity, to get back to your balance, to make good decisions. Tool number two is the one that I told you seems to be even more powerful than meditation, and it works almost instantly. Like if you feel unbalanced emotionally, you use this tool and you'll feel more balanced instantly, right after just a few cycles of breathing, of specific breathing. I like to call it exhale focused breathing, when you basically prolong the time that it takes you to breathe out. So you breathe in, let's say for the count of 4, and you breathe out on the count of 8. And you do this 3-6 cycles. Experts recommend to do 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and you set the timer and you do your breathing, and you'll feel instantly different. And it's not magic. What happens is the rate of your breath, how you breathe, it changes your heart rate. It changes all of the metabolic processes in your body. And that is in a feedback loop, goes into your brain, and it downregulates fear and emotional centers. And it opens up your prefrontal cortex more, meaning it is stronger, it is louder, it makes decisions for you instead of your emotional centers. Breathing also is a form of meditation, and it can be a form of that mindful meditation. You might be combining mindful meditation with your breath. You might be doing 13 minutes of breathing meditation when you just breathe. There is another breath type. It's called 4-7-8, not so much cold, but it just 4 counts breathing in, 7 counts hold, 8 counts breathing out. Seems to be also very powerful, especially before sleep, to calm down your racing thoughts, your racing mind. Another that seems to be even more powerful way to breathe, to have profound effects on your physiology and on your brain, down regulating your emotional centers. It's what Andrew Huberman, neuroscientist from Stanford, calls physiological sigh. In the study that they did, they called it cyclical sigh breath work. What it basically means, it's a little bit different. You breathe in on a count of 4, let's say. At the end of this breathing in cycle, you do like a double inhale. So it sounds like this. And then you keep breathing out. So at the end of your breathing in, you make like a little bit more of a breathing in, like double inhale. But it's one long one, and then short one, and then you're breathing out. So this seems to be even more powerful in the sense of adjusting your physiology and bringing your emotional, your fear, stress, centers of the brain down, and helping your prefrontal cortex to function better. It helps you to manage stress better and helps you to make better decisions. So this is the most powerful tool, breath work. It changes your physiology instantly. It changes how your brain processes things instantly. And obviously, the more you practice it, just the better you get, and your overall stress level is going to go a lot down. You can also use this breathing before public talk. That will remove the jitters, will calm you down. Now, if you're too sleepy, there are other forms of breathing, but today we're talking specifically about emotional regulation and calming yourself down and turning off, kind of down regulating your fear, your emotional centers, to allow your prefrontal cortex to make its best decisions. So, so far we talked about meditation. So far we talked about breath work. And now the last, but definitely not least, I'm going to introduce to you a tool that will help you to function well in high pressure, high stakes situations. When you are in a stressful situation, that might be negotiation, that might be a crucial conversation with your loved one, that might be accepting negative feedback in one form or the other, that might be, I don't know, you are flying to another country and your flight is delayed and you don't know how you make connections and you don't even speak the language in the airport where you're making connections, right? And so you're all over the place, and maybe you have kids and those are crying and you don't know what to do. So there are many different stressful situations in life that will arise, in business especially, right? You try this thing and you spend a lot of money on it and it didn't work, and you're like, what the F am I going to do right now? And your mind starts racing in the worst possible case scenarios. Like, how are you going to react in those situations will be affected by your training. There is a saying by one of my favorite Navy SEALs. We don't rise to the level of our aspirations. We fall to the level of our training. Basically what it means, if you never trained to perform well, to make good rational decisions in a situation of stress, then chances are when you are in that situation, you're going to behave like a rational, just an irrational person, screaming, arguing, being like the person, like a crazy person who, sometimes you see like, why is this person screaming at this person at a supermarket or at the airport? Well, maybe they are not that great under pressure and stress. And in normal life, they are totally normal and nice people. But if you put someone to the edge and they never experience that edge, chances are they're gonna behave like crazy. And that's what happens to a lot of people. They're like totally normal people, but a little bit more stress and they go crazy. And you're like, oh my God, what just happened to this person? And so to prevent this happening to you, especially women, if you tend to be on a crying side and you get negative feedback and your world collapses and you just want to run away, cry, and never get into this situation again, guess what? You're not going to survive business world or a lot of hardships in life that are supposed to move you forward, to give you progress. You're not going to survive a lot of that. You're just going to, again, stay stuck. So how do you get better at being better under pressure, under stress, instead of becoming this irrational mess? You train. And one of the best ways to train for high pressure situations is to put yourself into those situations that produce stress hormones. We just want to mimic the biochemistry that happens under stress. And the biochemistry of that is a lot of adrenaline. And how can you simulate that adrenaline? Well, one of the best ways is cold exposure. Why do you think so many people do it these days? Yeah, it has a lot of physiological benefits for your metabolism, etc., etc. But it also has this psychological effect. When you get into cold water, it's a huge stressor for your body. And in your blood, there is a lot of adrenaline rushing. And the only people who can stay in cold water for a long time, feeling calm and good, the only people who can do that are people who train themselves through consistent, through repetition, through repeated exposure. People train themselves to stay calm in that water. You usually would incorporate breath techniques like the exhale, focused breathing, like I taught you before. You get into this cold water, a lot of adrenaline rushing into your bloodstream, and you stay calm and you stay cool. Cold shower also might help if you have cold enough shower. Like right now in my place, cold shower isn't really cold. It's kind of lukewarm. But the point is, the cold exposure that you practice, it will help your body, it will help your brain to adjust to adrenaline, to this stressed chemical in your body, in your brain. It will help your brain to adjust to it. You're going to feel it, but you're not going to be freaking out, and you're still going to be thinking. Your prefrontal cortex still going to be online instead of going all offline and letting emotional centers overcome all of your decisions and actions. So you're going to stay calm, stay cool under this adrenaline rush, and that will help you to not get emotional, to make much better decisions, be that in a boardroom, work negotiations, or crucial conversations with people around you, or just, when people get crazy around you and at you, you'll stay cool and create the best possible outcome. And that's the whole point. So emotional regulation, part of it is learning how to stay cool under pressure. And the only way to do that is to expose yourself to stressor and control your breath, control your emotions, letting your prefrontal cortex know that it's okay to be stressed, and we can still handle it, making decisions. And then you train it. And when the situation heats up in real life, you are able to stay cool in that situation and make great decisions and create the best possible outcome. In my life, how I experience benefits, I just don't get that emotional in any situation. And sometimes, people think that people who used to, all this emotional mess, people think that you care less. And so sometimes I, on purpose, create this emotional response that people expect just to make them feel good, but it doesn't do anything for me. It's kind of like you become an actor, but it's because most of the world operates in this idea that if you are not crazy, if you don't get crazy or emotional, then you just don't care. Now, so sometimes, I still get to cry, but that's mostly stress release of my body and my brain, and I'm not making any decision at that point. It's still okay to laugh and cry, etc. But in a high stakes situation, in a negotiation, or in a situation when you actually need to make a decision, emotions, experiencing a lot of them, letting them override your prefrontal cortex, not a great idea. And so the only way you can get better at that is putting yourself more in stressful situations and learning how to be okay with all this adrenaline rushing in your blood. And the best practice, again, to do so is to physically immerse yourself in things like cold water and stay there calm, experiencing all of this stress and pressure, discomfort, and stay cool. And then in life, you're also going to be much more balanced. And that's it. That's what I wanted to share with you today, guys. The major tools to regulate your emotions better and not letting your emotions hijack your life, but instead making good decisions with your whole balanced brain, not overridden by your fear and anxiety and emotional centers. So let's recap. We have meditation, 30 minutes, that can be spread out throughout the day. 13 minutes mindful meditation to physically change the structure of your brain. And I believe actually that that is the most powerful way to change your emotional reactions, but it takes time. And so meditation, start doing it, do it daily, and you'll literally change physically your brain. Breath work, exhale, focus, specifically focus on psychological sigh. That is double inhale and long exhale. Right? Do this for 3-5 minutes every single day. Do this before a situation where there are going to be a lot of emotions, or maybe before your public talk, to calm yourself down. So breath work, it's more powerful in a sense that it's fast. So combine that with your meditation and you truly will develop brain like no other, like very few people in the world have. You'll be able to stay on track with your goals, finally, personal and business, without the emotional mess getting in the way. And then the third practice, I like to call it suck it practice. Just suck it up, because it's uncomfortable. It's kind of painful when you submerge yourself in cold water. There are other practices, but just I'm not familiar with many that can create this effect of prolonged exposure to adrenaline, training you. That's why Navy SEALs also use a lot of stuff in cold water, because this is like the easiest, the simplest, the most powerful way to train people stay cool under stress and when there is a lot of adrenaline. So cold exposure, do it weekly, 20 minutes. You might start with 5, with 10, with 15, with 20, or whatever that is. Expose yourself to cold, do cold plunge. Cold bath works better than cold shower, just because you're fully submerged in that, and stay in the kind of temperature that is uncomfortable, but that is safe for you. And practice your breath work, maybe with your meditation in that cold exposure. And this is like 3 tools in one: cold exposure, breath work, and meditation. Just focus on that breath work for at least 13 minutes, right? But whatever you can just start with, that's okay. Start, increase. Consistency is more important than intensity, as usual. And let me just tell you that any goal that you have will require you going through a lot of challenges. And if you don't know how to regulate your emotions and still keep going, then there is very little chance that you achieve any progress, any meaningful progress in life. So learn how to regulate your emotions, to create the life trajectory that you want, and to also enjoy your life instead of being an emotional mess, being hijacked by your emotions, instead of enjoying your emotions and using them for something good. If you found this very helpful, please do let me know. I always enjoy feedback from listeners of my podcast. If you have questions about any of the tools you'd like, book recommendations, app recommendations, if you would like some articles around that, please do also let me know. I'm going to send you a few great resources. Please do share this episode with people who might be struggling with their goals and progress because of this inability to regulate their emotions. Please do share, and stay tuned. On Friday, we're going to have a guest episode, so stay tuned. It's going to be beautiful, interesting, and you're going to learn a lot from the remote world of work. So stay tuned for that, guys. Our world has definitely changed, but fundamentally, we humans have not changed, and we're going to talk about that. So stay tuned, share, reach out for more resources, and the most important thing is start practicing. The only power you have is in the practice, not in the knowledge of the practice. Talk to you soon, guys, and have an awesome rest of Wednesday and awesome rest of the week.